Now, I would like to introduce the one, the only, me.
Hey, Squiddies, this is Dre, Tattoo Squid Podcast here with Chuey from the Myth Behind the Legends. And I still trying to figure that one out, Myth Behind Legends. I know you are a legend and you're no myth, because you do some outrageous stuff with a prior co-host,
Yeah.
and now you have a new one. So tell us what. Well, you told me, but I don't know if you want to go and tell everybody else this, unless you really want them to know what happened.
Yeah.
You
Yes,
know.
sure, man. So, my name is Chuey. I am one of the hosts of the podcast titled Exploring the Myths Behind the Legends. And we talk about horror media. So, anything from movies, TV shows, Netflix series, etc. We've even done short stories and books. We also touch up on urban legends every now and then, folk stories as well. And what you're talking about that I was telling you behind the scenes a little while ago is that my previous co-host, she and I, we've been friends forever, and she helped me out for about 64 episodes maybe. And then recently she had a big thing going on in her life, getting a new job and stuff like that, so she was not able to join in the podcast anymore. So I was looking for a co-host for about a month, and I was able to get another friend of mine on board. So she's been helping me out for the past month, more or less.
Nice, nice, and that's going pretty well. And she's getting like integrated with the whole thing, or has she done
Yeah,
podcasting before? Or
she hadn't actually. She hadn't, but she listens to a lot of them. I think her favorite, which one is it? She told me what her favorite one was, but I forgot.
yeah.
But it's something with horror also. I think it's the podcast on the left. I think it's called something like that.
Oh yeah,
And
I heard of them. Yeah.
so she likes that one a lot. But as far as she goes, she had never done any podcasting on her own. So when I called her up and asked her if she wanted to do it, she was really excited. The
Yeah.
first episode she was a little bit kind of gun shy at the beginning. She didn't want to talk too much maybe. But as we've been working together for the past, like I said, month or so, she's been getting a lot better at just kind of being herself, because I know she's really talkative and she's really fun to be with and hang out with.
Yeah, yeah, cool. I mean, you gotta like find like I don't really know because I mean I want to have like that co-host kind of thing, and that way it bounces off people, and then you could be able to like just talk about different shit or
Mhm.
get their opinions, and even if they're not really a horror background, or if they're in the media, then they'd be like, hey, this and that, or they can do like a certain subject and then dwell onto that. Um,
Mhm.
there's like many kind of things. It's somewhat like a radio station kind of thing, and each person has a part. So but that's like I was posting something before. Hey, how about we have like a podcast, kind of thing where everybody's at some kind of like virtual fucking radio station, you know?
Mhm.
Like, everybody has a network. Everybody's had like networks going on and part of a network. So I
Mhm.
don't know if that's like a radio station kind of type. I don't know. But, figuring if we can have like a radio station. And a lot of people came back to me and like, that's like pirate radio. That's illegal. And I'm like, yeah, but it's podcasting, so it's not like we're on here, so that's it.
Yeah, we're not hijacking the radio waves. It's podcasting. So
Yeah,
I don't. We're not like what is it? The FCC is the one that regulates all that stuff.
yeah, I know.
I
It's
mean,
just like they're probably laughing, like, "Oh my god, this stuff is great," you know. The FCC is like, "Let's see some more," but well, that'll be at first. I'll put them. We call a picture of them on the fucking episode art. See how that goes. And then I'll get a letter of cease and desist. No, but uh, so what's your like? What was the favorite movies that you would talk about? I mean, I know there's a lot of different subjects and genres and everything else, but is there a certain type that you like, or is there uh
me
you know
personally, when it comes to horror movies, I like the '80s slashers. Man, that's my bread and butter. I
Yeah.
was born in the 80s. I grew up in the 90s. That's when I was really a teenager in the late 90s. But I always grew up watching those movies when I was a little kid. So those are my favorites. Of course, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th. Those are my favorite movies. And when I say that to people, they're like, "Well, those movies are not that great." I'm like, "Well, they're not Oscar worthy material, whatever." But
Yeah, exactly.
to me, that's the kind of movie that I enjoy watching it, but I would never say that it's a great movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when we're younger, we were there, because I started growing up, I was watching Nightmare on Elm Street, like Dream Warriors, the first one, the second one, it's not really a good, Nightmare on
Mhm.
Elm Street because it doesn't have that feel to it. But like the first one, always a good one, the original first, and then the third one, Nightmare on Elm Street's we call Dream Warriors, where the sexy nurse kind of thing with
Oh yeah.
and the whole aspect of it because you're like a teenager, you're like, oh, especially that one like scene and all that. And people, if you don't know, you go watch the fucking movie. Yeah,
I
uh,
know exactly which scene you mean. Was it when the guy that couldn't speak is tied up by the nurse?
yeah, Joey. Joey couldn't speak, and then he's like, she's like, oh, I always liked you. Oh, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, it's like Freddy and like the skies and the tongues are just like
Oh yeah.
little lizards coming out and like he's trapped in like the pit of hell.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Like
like yeah.
that's a pretty intense scene, man. But I mean, I like those movies a lot, but I also like movies that deal with hauntings of mansions and stuff like that. I guess ghost stories, maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
those
That
kinds of
was
movies
good.
too.
Yeah, because you always got the mansion. Like all right, I'm not gonna say Saw is like that, but they do dwell on certain aspects of like houses or farms or
Hmm.
whatever. But it's also a good thing. Like certain houses, like what was the one that has a haunted house kind of thing? I mean, there's like the witch. Yeah, the House of the Witch. I think is one that's called. It's like a really like somewhat a low budget kind of movie, but it was really really fucking good. They're in a haunted house. The witch was like dead and reincarnated, and then there's always that one kid that's trying to get out, and they drag him back in, and the nails are just scraping on the.
Oh yeah.
It's like oh shit. But since we're on the subject of '80s horror movies, what about Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
I haven't seen that movie in forever. When I first saw it, I think it must have been around 12 or 13. And I think I might have seen it one more time after that, but I didn't see the whole movie the second time.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna kind of break this out in your show right here. Next episode that we're doing is not it's gonna be Friday the 13th, the remake, which was in 2009.
Yeah.
But the one after that, we're planning on doing that new Netflix one that came out, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, not the original, but that one that just was
Yeah.
released.
This.
I want to say,
It,
yeah, yeah. So, but I mean, I'm trying to avoid spoilers.
yeah.
It's been really hard because everyone's reviewing it and everyone's talking about it, and I'm like, ah, man, like we might be doing that in a couple of weeks, so I'm trying to avoid like
Well, the
reading
thing is
anything.
that
But
this will come out probably. What was this? This is like February what 20th or something like that.
19th, yeah.
1920. I'm like lost my days. So you figure probably in the middle of maybe March
Oh,
or
awesome, man.
so. Yeah, because it's gonna be like down the road. I mean, because I always go in order
Mhm.
of the people I talk to. So
Yeah.
instead of jumping around and get my whole mind, uh, you
Oh
know,
yeah, no, man,
being
yeah.
like chainsaw fucking mush, you know. Uh,
That'll be a mess. But I mean, to answer your question though, I haven't seen that movie and I want to say over 25 years, maybe
Because I was
20.
gonna give your uh, well, you just said you didn't really see the Netflix one yet, right?
I haven't seen that one. No.
Oh, okay, so I'm not gonna not put it out there because I thought you might have seen it and all that. But
Hmm.
what do you think about like when they do remakes and all that? I mean, certain people like remakes because it's a little bit gorier, it's a little bit um it's more into the history of it. There's more,
Hmm.
certain aspects from a different point of view. Me, I fucking hate remakes, reboots, remakes, whatever. I'm like, dude, the original ones are good. You can still watch it and rewatch it, and it's crazy.
Uh-huh.
But now it's like, oh no, we can do this, and I'm like, no,
It's
no.
not gonna work. Well, it's funny because there are a few remakes that I do like. Not very many though. I'm kind of with you on that for the most part, in the sense that I don't like when people bring back a story that I enjoyed when I was younger and then they remake it and it's completely different.
Yeah.
My biggest problem with remakes, and I keep giving this example with anyone that I speak to, but for example, the Rob Zombie Halloween remakes, I was like, what am I even watching? This is just not even. It's not Halloween. It's not what the character, because what he did in his movies is he changed the essence of Michael Myers. So Michael Myers is not completely different from what he was in the original movie.
Yeah.
So to me, that's the main issue with that series or that couple of movies he made rather, because I don't mind. I mean, if the story is okay, okay. I mean, but the main thing with that for me was that Rob Zombie just completely did a whatever he
Like a
wanted.
360 kind of like,
Yeah,
yeah.
something that's really weird, man, and I didn't appreciate that, and I was like, I can't enjoy a movie like that. But a remake that I like that I thought was pretty good was Dawn of the Dead,
Oh, okay.
the Zack Snyder version, like from 2010, no, four, I think 2004. It's been a while,
That's the
but
one with Ving Rhames in it.
yeah, that one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Now, I prefer the original. I still prefer the original, but I
yeah.
think that one was done okay. It was like you said, it was a little gorier, but I mean, it kind of has to be because when you make a movie that was made 30 years ago into modern times, people's perception of stuff changes. So you need to be a little bit more graphic to
Yeah.
kind of keep their interest, because otherwise it's gonna be like, this movie is like
Well,
whatever. So
yeah, like you have like Return of the Living Dead. That one you could do remakes and remakes and remakes, and it still gives it a little bit more oomph to it.
mhm.
Like you got the one that's in black and white, and it's kind of like and then you got Mr. Candyman that was in the whole the
Oh
first
yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah.
So and then actually there's a interesting story that or actually an interesting movie I seen that is cool, and it has Tony Todd in it. Um, Basically, we call you have that whole thing where they're running, and it's like a black and white kind of film, and which is cool. But then when they do other like Night of the Living Dead, and they got more, you know, but lacking a better word, gorier, and
Mhm.
or more grotesque as it is, where just dripping blood, dripping flesh, and you're like, oh wow, this is fucking good, and then they got a little comedy in there, and it's always good. And Dawn of the Dead is like not really the same, but
Mhm.
it does have that more shock value.
Yeah.
And there's times in Ving Rhames we could, been in a lot of zombie movies. There was
Mhm. Yeah,
that
actually,
was it that one uh oh, I forgot the name of it now.
he did a few, man. He
Yeah.
did that one, the remake of Dawn of the Dead. He made the remake of Day of the Dead, and that one was not that great.
Yeah, that
That
was
one was
the,
pretty
the,
bad.
the tiger. What was it? It had like a dead tiger or
Oh,
something like
that
that.
was another one he was in, but I forgot the name of that one.
Yeah.
And that one, I think they're trying to get to an island or something like that. They always want to get
Yeah.
to an island. But I know which one you're talking about. I forgot the name of it, but I think in that one he dies towards the very end. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, so like those movies I can see doing remakes. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like that kind of thing. But when you're doing a remake of like our favorite ones, like the '80s slasher movies,
Mm.
like Friday the 13th, they did a remake of that one, made them a little bit faster and all that. I'm like, okay, I understand that. Okay, you have him running. I'm like, he was like that in the first. No, was it the first one? No, the second one. I think of
Yeah,
Friday the
second and
13th.
third.
He was doing a little bit of running. But then have the other time, it's like he teleported. Oh, there he is. Oh, there he goes again. But the one that really fucking gets my goat, Nightmare on Elm Street. Just like
Uh,
the remake, and they grabbed the guy, and I don't really remember the guy's name, but he was in the movie with Watchmen, and he played
uh,
Horseshoe.
mhm.
And the guy is like 5'3"
Yeah.
or 5'2" or something like that. He's about the size of my girlfriend. And he plays Freddy Krueger. I'm like, what's that? Freddy Krueger's son? And I'm like, I can't watch something like this where it's like it's not the same fucking height. You can tell he's short. I'm like, unless he's playing a midget in the fucking dream, Jesus, come on.
No, and see, like the problem that I had with that movie is again they changed the essence of Freddy Krueger because
Exactly.
for a while I mean it's not so much the physical thing, but I mean as far as the personality behind them in that movie for a while they try to make it seem like he was actually innocent, but to me that was like why even because we all know that Freddy was a bastard. He was never a good guy
Yeah.
in any of the movies. So for them to do that, it's like, why are you trying to do this? Because we know how he is. So why even try to trick us, or even the people that are new to the audience?
Yeah.
They're gonna go back and watch the other ones, and it's gonna, oh, that's super different to what I watched. But I am with you. I don't like that one either. I don't like the. I thought the guy, as far as his acting goes, he tried, but I mean,
Yeah.
nah,
You
it's
can
just
feel you can feel it we call that he's not really feeling it.
yeah.
Like he's doing it, but he's trying to. It's like
Mhm.
I'm destroying this shit. I'm like
Yeah.
people are gonna know I'm destroying this shit. He's like I probably don't even like horror movies. I'm like, geez.
I mean, imagine the responsibility though of him like accepting that role and knowing that he was gonna be under the microscope, and man, that must have been super
Yeah.
stressful for that guy. But at the same time, if you know that it's gonna be different than the original, then you can always choose not to do it.
Because I mean it's like you look at all the 80s slasher ones. Okay, you have Friday the 13th, the guy wears a mask. You can have anybody playing that role. Because he's wearing a mask.
Uh-huh.
You know, Michael Myers, same thing. He's wearing a mask. You won't know who it is. That the height wise, yeah, okay, but you won't know by face wise. And the face wise, you're going by where like Hellraiser,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
you know, um, Freddy Krueger, and there's like numerous other different aspects. And then you got Pennywise. They have like a whole new different look on the guy, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm old school. I understand that.
Yeah.
I'm old school. I mean, that's the way I like stuff, and you know how parents were when they see like the older movies, like Frankenstein and all that. It's
Hmm.
like, no, that's cinema, greatness right there. And all of a sudden now they got this thing where he's like running around grabbing vampires and doing this and
Yeah.
jumping around with it, you know, and
Yeah.
I kind of like feel like that sometimes, when you're doing your, you like your '80s slashers, and then people just like knocking it down, like, nah, it's good.
I mean, and those movies were considered to be trash back in the day by the professional critics, whatever.
Yeah,
And I always thought that was hilarious because the point of those movies is not to break any new ground; it's just to entertain people.
yeah,
As far as Jason and Freddy and Michael, who I think are the best representatives of that, just the biggest ones, really.
yeah. It's
So I always think it's funny when people that are critics are like, oh, these movies are horrible. They don't have any substance. Well, that's not the point.
I know. I mean, it has to like good quality, but the actors have to go and feel it too.
Yeah.
But with the Rob Zombie now, we call it. Okay, Halloween. Yeah, okay, I can understand that. But he's done like stuff on his own, like 31, Lords of Salem. Uh, what was the other one? Well, my favorite one we called House of a Thousand Corpses.
Mhm.
Now that's fucking like original fucking shit, and it's like gory as hell too.
Uh-huh.
You know, and especially with I think he kind of took a page out of like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of thing, like
Yeah, big time.
slicing the face off and all that and wearing it. So I was like, okay, that's a little Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of thing, but he did pretty well. It's like a more family kind of thing. And actually, what's funny about it today, Me and my girlfriend were looking around at houses, and we go in this one neighborhood, and we're just driving around, and all of a sudden we see this one house set like in the woods, and it has like all um like 5 to 6 like broken down vehicles, like hasn't run, and they're all over the yard, and I'm like, House of a Thousand Corpses. I'm like, it looks just like it. And what the funny part was, the person's house next door has the gated fucking area, we call it, including the driveway has the gate with the bars.
Wow, man.
Like I'm like, I think they know something.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, that is fucking crazy, and it's in a windy road too. So it's like one of those windy um forest kind of areas,
Man.
because I even said to her, I'm like, you know what this street reminds me of? And she goes, what? I'm like, and she's like, what the fuck is that? I'm like, Jason, Friday the 13th. You're gonna have to see the people walking around doing, hitchhiking. But that's my take for the day of the whole thing.
It's hilarious, man. That's funny.
But have you ever had like guests that, or have you had any like celebrity guests that's in horror or something of yet?
Yeah, as of yet, not really, man. We're trying to get somebody to guest on that. I mean, we've had people in our show, but they're either friends of ours or they're other podcasters or people from YouTube that
Yeah.
we hook up with and do an episode with. But as far as a celebrity, we haven't. And I'm trying to find out if anybody would be able to help out with that. There was this guy on Instagram that I talked to a while back. He's an independent movie director, so no, he's not super famous or anything like that. He's based out of England, but then I never heard back from him again. So I don't know. He probably just changed his mind.
Yeah. I
Uh-huh.
think I was talking to as we all know, and we all go on Twitter, and you try to get like a following and everything else, and then there's like certain people that are following you, and you're like, oh, and you just read their thing, it's like, oh, producer, an actor, this and that, and they follow you. I'm like, okay, click,
Hmm.
maybe I can talk to them later. And I was talking to this one person, and I didn't realize that that they're in Italy.
Oh.
And they're like, "Oh, I'm a producer and a director and all that." I'm like, hey, if you want, I can be part of the movie. But then all of a sudden they're like, "Yeah, this can be kind of hard. You're in Long Island, New York." I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, "Well, I'm in Italy." I'm like, "Yeah, that's gonna be kind of difficult now."
Oh.
I mean, I'd love to go back to Italy, but um, that is like a culture shock right there.
Oh
So
yeah, I would imagine, man. I mean, I've never been to Europe, but just moving here from Mexico, I'm literally, you see a map of the U.S., that line that divides two countries,
yeah.
U.S. and Mexico down here. I'm literally on that line.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm like way down south. I if I drive 20 minutes south, I'm in Mexico. Just to give you an idea.
No, there you go. There you go.
So just coming here when I grew up over there when I was a kid. I was there until I was about 10, 11 years old maybe. And then I made the jump over here with my dad's family, and that was like
Yeah, yeah, that's
I
a
mean,
fucking shock. You're like, whoa,
yeah,
what the fuck?
yeah.
That's like my dad. My dad's from Hungary, and he came over, and he took it like I don't want to say a fish to water, but he came in there, and then he laid the grounds of him staying here, did a whole citizenship, and then he got a job over working at like I'm not gonna say a mental institution, but a more psychiatric kind of like hospital back in those days. So then he met my grandma. My grandma hired him, and then he met my mom, and so it kind of like fell in between,
Uh-huh.
and then pretty much my family was in that whole, not in it, but like worked in the area. They worked in the psychiatric
Yeah, yeah.
kind of thing. So maybe that does kind of say something about my psyche. I don't know. Maybe I'm a
I
little,
think everything affects you, man, as you're growing up. I mean, everything that you kind of see and experience, everything that's around you.
yeah.
I think on some level that gets you somehow.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's looking at like, how do you watch horror movies? I'm like, it's easy. You just sit there and watch. I mean, what is there to say? And then, but they were like, oh, but how do you sleep? I'm like, I sleep fine.
Yeah,
you
just fine,
know?
dude. Yeah, I mean, when people ask me that question, I'm just like, I mean, especially people that are into true crime stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, how do you sleep after you hear all those podcasts about Ted Bundy and all these people? I'm like, oh, I mean, I sleep fine. Well, I sleep fine when I watch Freddy Krueger slashing people on the screen. It's just like,
Yeah, exactly.
it's the exact same thing. I mean,
so what's your take on like those, like, say, like you got your slasher movies, but then you got like things like Saw, and like other like serial killerish kind of thing, like in Hostel.
mm,
Hostel is like, and people, if you don't know what Hostel is and you think Saw is crazy, watch Hostel.
oh yeah,
That is just like, especially when you got an organization that is backing this thing up in there, and it's like money is no fucking object.
yeah.
You know?
And I am not a huge fan of movies like that. Oddly enough, when it's with the so-called torture porn movies, kind of.
Yeah.
So Saw, for example, the first one, maybe the second one too, they're good. They're interesting to watch. But after part two, I think it just became a thing of let's what kind of a messed up thing can we show on the screen? Like how far can we take this kind of thing?
Yeah.
That's kind of what it became. And the same thing with Hostel. I mean, the first one, I got through it and I was like, I don't think I'm watching that again ever.
Yeah.
But I can understand what they were going with or the angle they were trying to approach that from. And it goes back to what you said a little earlier that you have to make things over time. It needs to be gorier and it needs to be more blood and stuff like that because otherwise the audience is going to be like, well, I've seen that already. So,
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's just like the typical, like torture thing, but it doesn't go more than that.
mhm.
Like, and then for instance, like people when you listen to this, and then you'll see like what my description of it would be. If you've never seen it, and if you're like a fan of horror stuff, and this is kind of like horror, but it's like a level up
Mhm.
as it is, and it could be good, for you if you watch it, or it could be squeamish. So just a heads up. But Hostel, like I said, came like the first one that you were talking about. The first one is like an all guy thing, pretty
Mhm.
much. So they grab these guys, and it's like an organization. They just find like people that nobody's gonna miss, and then they put them in the situation where they're in rooms and everything else. And each room is a different hunter, you would say. Yeah, one likes to interrogate with bugs, or use gas, or use chainsaws, or use whatever means necessary, what they think that is their hobby. Basically, it's a hobby of theirs, but they
Mhm.
have the money to keep it quiet. So I think, was it the first one? I think was like in like Bucharest or something like that.
Somewhere in Eastern Europe, yeah.
Yeah, somewhere in Eastern Europe, and then they had everything from like the hookers or whatever would go and entice them,
Mhm.
bring them on, but then they lured them in there, and they're like, oh shit. Then you get to the second movie where it's all girls, so it's like, the sorority kind of thing, where it's like,
Mhm.
oh, here's all the boys and here's all the girls, and then the third one, and there is actually a third one, folks.
Wow.
There's a third one of a bachelor party, and the bachelor party is in Las Vegas, and the Las Vegas Strip is the playground of the organization.
Mm.
So the people are underneath the whole thing, and every part of the wedding party is getting killed in certain form
Wow.
and fashion. So it's a franchise they got going, and Eli Roth is a sick motherfucker. I can tell you right
Yeah.
now. He's
I
done
mean,
like, what was that one with the cabin? He did one with like a virus. It was like a
oh,
cabin.
Cabin Fever.
Yeah.
Cabin
So he
Fever.
did that one, and that one was just fucking crazy.
Oh yeah, that one's is interesting too, man, because that's the one where the water is polluted and it starts kind of like melting their skin off, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh
exactly.
man, that
Yeah,
was
yeah. That
it's pretty intense, bro.
it's like, but also I think he also did Green Volcano, I believe. Um,
Oh,
I think
I haven't seen it, but it's Green Inferno.
Green Inferno. Yeah, that's what I say. I'm always putting those two like together for some reason. I'm like Volcano, but I think there is a movie called Green Volcano. Maybe that's the reason why I got mixed up, probably. But um, it you know, so Green Inferno is pretty much like a cannibalistic
Mhm.
kind of movie where I think it was like two or three people, and I haven't seen it, but I've seen the contractions, and I'm not sure about cannibalism. So your boy Squid here, okay, doesn't want to go and see some cannibalism kind of shit. But it's from what I hear, it's kind of nasty. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I mean, and the thing about those movies is, like I said, I haven't seen that one, but movies like that, for example, and Hostel, I think it's more about the fear of the unknown
yeah,
in a way, because in Hostel it's a little bit closer to home because it's in the city,
yeah,
and it's a place, for example, that people think it's pretty high class, like Europe, and we don't know what's going on and behind closed doors with anybody's place.
yeah.
So I mean that is kind of, I guess, interesting from that angle, in the sense that you don't know what the person you're talking to is capable of, or what they've done before in the past. So that's kind of like the thing that I would say is what the point of that movie was. And then with Green Inferno, for example, it's the fear of not knowing what's out there, because we all live comfortably in cities or in towns, whatever the
Yeah.
case might be. But once you're out in the wilderness, in the forest, in the jungle, I mean, it's free for all, man. Like there's nothing that can really prepare you for that, no matter how much time you spend out there. You're
Oh,
always gonna
that's
find something
true.
new.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely is true because even uh you're just going anywhere. Oh, and I like my other question would be now these day and age and all that, like everything's pretty much advancing up. We got our cell phones, and then we got our set up in the cars and everything else, and probably we're gonna have that hovering fucking car thing going on. Um, Apparently, folks, we're supposed to have like Back to the Future, and Back to the Future was supposed to be 2012 ish or something like that, where we're supposed to be up in the air. um, but my question is like, do you think we are going to be having like a purge? Like the movie The Purge. Do you think that would come to fruition? I'm not saying I'm not happy that if it will be, because
Mm.
I mean, I know I can take my care of myself because honestly, your boy here has a lot of like he's a collector of knives, so
Uh,
um, I can pretty much try to handle whatever. But do you think that a purge would be like in the making down, in a couple of
mm.
years? Hopefully, when I'm like 80, hopefully it won't be. But
Hopefully, after I'm not here anymore.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
I don't know, man. I mean, like, if you think about it from today's perspective, you would imagine probably not, in the sense that it's shown in the movie where they make it into a law, for example.
Yeah,
I think that I've only seen the first one, and that was a while back. But I think the story in that movie is that the government actually makes it legal for all crime to be allowed for 24 hours, I think.
yeah, 24 hours. Yeah, like
So,
everything is frozen. Cops,
mhm.
ambulances, and yeah, pretty much that's it.
Yeah. So if it does happen, I don't think it would happen like that. I think it would just be kind of like a riot type of situation, and that was kind of just escalate, and
Yeah,
it would eventually kind of settle down. But I mean, the world is a crazy place, man. It's just a lot of craziness going, especially nowadays with things going on. And I'm not a politician. I don't know what's
yeah.
the reasons behind all that stuff. So I don't like to talk about stuff that I don't know too much about.
Yeah. That's why we
But
don't talk about the religion and
uh,
politics. The reason I just
yeah,
brought the purge because it's like
yeah.
it's a horror thing. Yeah.
But I do think that some things. I mean, especially with what we've been going through the past couple of years, with people kind of being tired of everything, the pandemic and all these things,
Hmm.
and restrictions and this and that. And so I think there's a lot of, I don't know what the word is. I don't think it's necessarily anger, but there's a lot of uneasiness in a lot of people. There's a lot of frustration, maybe.
Yeah.
And you've seen it, man. There's a whole bunch of increases in criminal activity as far as violent murders and stuff like that. So I think
Yeah.
it's getting to the point where it may in fact happen that there may be like a mass riot in a huge city, and it's gonna take days or weeks to control it.
Yeah. No, definitely. Let's get on a happier note. Now, even though
Mhm.
all that is like happier note for me and all that, like I see you are a fan of music.
Yeah,
You know, you got the guitar thing. Like, it's
yeah,
not
right over
real.
here.
You got Guitar Hero. You know, there's like jazz in the background. You got the guitar sitting on the stands, and you know. So, what is your favorite kind of music? I mean, obviously, it's probably some jazz, some rock, probably,
Uh-huh.
maybe.
Oddly enough, I wasn't really too much into jazz until more. I mean, and I'm not a jazz fan. What I mean by that is that when I was younger, I didn't listen to it. I didn't even try to listen to it. I was always more of a rock and roll kind of kid.
Yeah.
80s rock, of course, Guns N' Roses, Van Halen, stuff like that.
Oh, awesome.
And then I got into heavier stuff like Megadeth and Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
So when I was younger, I never really gave jazz a chance. But when I was learning more about music, I started getting a lot into progressive rock, and that kind of bridges the gap between rock and jazz in a way. The way that progressive rock works is it's more complicated, it's more intricate. So I still wouldn't say that I'm a jazz fan necessarily, but I can listen to it now and appreciate it. I mean, a lot of it is pretty good, and I was like, man, I wish I had listened to this a lot sooner.
Yeah, I know, definitely. You know, I mean, I like my certain kind of I listen to everything. The only thing I don't listen to is like country and you know the other like like you have the classical music. But I mean, if it's on, all right, you know, to get you in that mood or whatever. Yeah, but like with hard rock, heavy metal, I started listening to hard rock like maybe 10, 11 years old, maybe. And then, I got this one album, and I didn't know who it was, but it looked kind of rockish, and it did sound like rock. And then I found out later on, like not even a couple of years ago, that they were some kind of like huge, um, like rock kind of thing in like a certain country. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then it progressed throughout the years of going to school, and then you listen to rap, you listen to this and like pop. No, no, sorry. But metal, like you said, yeah, because I grew up with that from like the like middle junior high to throughout high school and even to today. I just like progress in different kinds of metal. So
Mm.
graduated from like I did like Megadeth, Pantera, Metallica, from like, even like the hair metal bands, like when you're in high school, it's like Motley Crue, you know, Dokken, whoever, Guns N' Roses, and then all of a sudden now it's like Lamb of God and it's Slipknot and Slayer and now what's the newest one that I got? Devil Driver
Mm.
is one that yeah, I think you'll like Devil Driver. Devil Driver is like really hard hitting and then a little fast paced. A little gutter roll growl kind of thing, but
Mhm.
the sound is really intense. Yeah.
Is that the guy from Disturbed? I think I saw that band live. I don't know if it was Devil Driver or something. It sounds familiar. I went to a concert a few years ago, and it was Megadeth, and it was also Black Label Society with Zach
Yeah.
Wild.
Okay.
And I think there was a band called Devil Driver or something similar to that. And the singer was the guy from Disturbed, the singer from Disturbed.
No,
I don't
no,
know if
actually,
it's.
no, that wasn't that one. We call it. He was the singer was originally in a band called Cold Chamber.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
he was in Cold Chamber. He was like, it was like he didn't look like it was like metal, but it was like more progression kind of metal.
Hmm.
And then you got into like Double Driver, where it's more grimy, sludgy kind of like
Hmm.
uh you. I don't want to describe it as like, oh, you have to listen to the back of the alley kind of music. No, it's not like that, but it's just because I honestly want to get the lead singer on the show. I'm like, so, and I don't think he's going to listen to this, but I'm like, Des, if you're listening to this, I want to get you on the show because I want to get him on there, Broken Lizard from the Super Troopers movies.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Elvira. You know,
Oh man,
hell,
yeah.
fucking Johnny Depp. I wouldn't mind if I can get him on here. And just, like pick his brain about is he gonna do fucking Pirates of the Caribbean? Um, have you ever gone through movies other than horror, or you just stick with that genre?
Nah, when I'm not watching scary movies, I want to watch sometimes comedies and sometimes action movies for the most part. So I would say, in order of the movies that I watch the most, would be horror, then action, and then comedies. At the very, that's like the top three categories that I watch the most. Dramas, I'm not really too much into because I mean, there's enough of that in real life. I
Yeah, yeah.
think. And sometimes if it's a good movie, like for example, Saving Private Ryan, that's a good movie,
Oh
and
yeah.
I would say that's a action drama maybe. I mean, it's more drama than action really, but all those
There is
scenes.
action in there, so
Yeah,
especially the
yeah. So
beginning, folks. If you haven't seen it, you're living in a rock.
yeah, the
Uh,
first 20 minutes of the movie is pretty intense, man. When
yeah,
I watched it, and I was, I think, about 13 years old, and I was like, "What the hell am I watching? Am I watching a documentary?" Because that's what it kind of feels like when you're watching that movie for the first time. It feels
yeah.
like you're really there as part of the whole thing, and it's
But I
just
mean, like with your show, we call it, with Myth Beyond Legends and all that. Do you instead of like horror stuff, do you do other movies other than that, or you just stick with the subject of horror movies?
no, for that it's mostly horror. That we've done a couple movies that are not straight up horror. I think we did one that was about a serial killer, and that's called Mr. Brooks.
Oh, I
That
heard of that one. Yeah.
that's an awesome movie, man. I recommend it a lot to people who like psychological thrillers because that movie is pretty intense and there's a twist in the middle and it's really interesting. I've always mentioned that movie when somebody asks me what else do you watch besides horror, and to me that's one of the top ones. And that's kind of as far as we've taken it so far with that. I don't think we'll do anything. We might do a horror comedy like Shaun of the Dead, for example,
Yeah.
at some point, or stuff like that. But there's always going to be some sort of horror or psychological thriller element to whatever it is we're going to do.
Yeah, that's just crazy. We call that because I tried like in this one, and if anybody that doesn't really know, it's like my show is pretty much a clusterfuck of different shit. So it's like we just talk about whatever. Um, but I like horror as it is. Horror like you said, horror, comedy, and action. So it is like in that whole thing. But I'm not gonna say anything about drama because like yeah, like you said, it's piggybacking off of that. But the horror is like my top one. But there is like stuff I don't really see that much. Like I'll look at it. I'm like looking at the thing. I'm like, do I really want to watch this? Because I'm like the type of guy that would go and like play the movie and excited I'm going to go and see this movie. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, I want to see this movie. And then you're like 5 minutes into it, you're like, no, not really. Why don't you look for something else? And it's just like, and I don't know why, because my girlfriend does that. Says that to me every time. She goes, you do this every time. And not with her. It's just like by myself. She'll be in one room. I'll be in the other room. And it's like not even, and no joke, like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and I'm searching. Like I'm going through every, I'm going through Hulu, I'm going through fucking Netflix, I'm going through Tubi, especially Tubi. I'm just going on there. I'm like, oh shit, oh I haven't seen that in a long time. And I get like a minute into the whole thing. Fuck that, nah, nah. I'm like, son of a bitch, I can't even fucking pick up. I'm too picky. You know. And then she comes out. You still haven't found anything? I'm like, no, I don't know what the fuck's wrong with me. So, but that's my pet peeve, I guess, of the whole thing. But when it comes to like a really good, what's the one movie that you would want to go, like, if you were gonna sit down, and you're like, listen, I'm gonna watch this movie, and say, hey, that's what I'm gonna watch, like what movie comes into your mind that you need to watch before anything else?
You mean as far as maybe like when I browsed for it,
No, no, not
or
even browsing.
just
Just like like when you get home, and then you're just like you said, you're getting home from work or whatever, and then not doing like a podcast or not doing a guest spot.
Oh, I see. Just for fun.
Yeah, right, like you walk in, you're like, I'm gonna watch this, and boom, just get in here, instead of like
Yeah,
searching for something.
yeah. And I'll just grab the movies from my DVD collection, man. It's a really campy movie, and I again won't say that it's a great movie because it's not really a great movie, but I really dig Freddy versus Jason, man.
Oh yeah, yeah, it is.
That's a hell of it's a fun movie to watch. I mean, it's hilarious. I mean,
Oh
but
yeah,
I like it, man. I mean,
the
it's considered to
dream
be,
sequence.
yeah, it's a horror movie, quote unquote. But I mean, to us, having grown up with that stuff, it's kind of like these people are friends, kind of in a way.
Yeah,
Like people, hey, I haven't caught up with this guy in a while. What's he been up to lately?
yeah. What's Freddy doing? I'm like, okay, we'll check this out. I'm like, oh, the Dream Child. What the fuck is this? I'm like,
Oh
oh.
yeah, no, that movie. That's probably one of the worst ones in that franchise, man. To
Yeah,
me.
it should stop at 5 or 6.
Hmm.
Maybe 5. I think they should stop at like a 5. You know, don't do any fucking remakes, folks. Don't do any remakes. Unless it's like a really good fucking thing, and then it's like, I'm going back to Saw because they did one movie. They did one called Spiral. I never seen it yet. I want to, because I love Chris Rock. So, again, Chris Rock, if you're hearing, get on the show. And hell, fucking sponsors. Anybody has a horror sponsor, bring it over here.
Hell yeah.
But I was watching Jigsaw, which it's its own thing, and I was telling. This is another question, actually. I want to get your opinion on. Now, when you've seen the first Saw or the second one, the both of them as it is, what is your opinion about like Jigsaw itself? Do you think that he is killing them, or does he give them the choice? Because in my opinion, I'll tell you my opinion after I hear yours.
Hmm.
So,
Man, that's pretty interesting. I mean, I think in essence he is killing them because he's putting them in danger. So I mean, it's a really difficult question actually to answer
aha,
because
see, I'm doing
I
my
mean,
job.
because technically speaking, he's not killing them, but he is setting up the way in which they could die if they don't make the right if they don't get the puzzle correct or if they don't find the key in time, whatever. So I think he's not guilty until the person dies, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, I mean, it does in a point because when I'm watching the whole thing and I'm watching like a Saw and everything else, and I know everybody's gonna have their opinions, like, oh, he's just killing them just for the random thing. I'm like, no, there is a philosophy about the whole thing.
Uh-huh.
So you're looking at it like, all right, let's put it in perspective. The first one, he found out he has cancer, right? So now he doesn't have that time to live, but insurance company is screwing him over, and he's talking to him. He's like, well, listen, what are you doing? I need the money because I got to do this thing or I'm going to die. It's like, well, honestly, it doesn't seem like you are capable of being alive. That's what they're telling him.
Mm.
And then now he's getting all pissed off, so he goes and gets this guy, and he finds out he's been doing this shit to everybody else. So now he's putting him through the ordeals of his actions. So, he had to be accountable for his actions as it is. But they're not
Yeah.
going to do it in real life. In his world, they won't do it in his world. But in Jigsaw's world, you are going to go for accountable for your actions. And he goes through a train wreck
Hmm.
of different shit. And then also, but you get, what's the phrase that he says? It's like, for you to get in life, you have to give a pound of flesh. So it's basically, whatever thing that he goes through, he's going to lose something. Whether it's the inside of his kidney or the key is
Yeah.
in his kidney, and and also it's funny when you look through the whole thing, he has an associate of some sort
Yeah.
that's working behind the scenes, but you don't know what it is. And then it kind of like, shows up at the end, and then all of a sudden after you figure, oh, that guy got killed, but then the guy just gets up and he's like, oh, it's all an act, like
Yeah.
you're the one that started it, and then they're the next one to do it. So like I said, now going back to Jigsaw, same fucking shit. It was just fucking awesome. I'm looking, I'm like, oh, look at this. Like, oh, this is awesome. I mean, all right, I might like the whole mind frame of like, the psychological thing of a somewhat killer, not really a killer, because he gives him
Um,
a voice.
yeah, I mean, he is an interesting character. I mean, that I will definitely agree with because, like I said, he has a reason why he's doing that to a specific person or a specific group of people.
Yeah.
He's not just picking random people from the street. He is in essence trying to teach them a lesson about how, I guess, how to be better people or how to live life to the fullest because he doesn't have the time anymore.
Well,
And
plus, and also, in Jigsaw, we call it, he found out that his thing was all screwed up.
mhm,
So somebody screwed up his x-rays. So they put his name on the wrong x-ray that had fatal whatever, and it turned out he wasn't fatal and he lived, but he is, pretty much got somebody to work with him and teach him the ways. But there is a method to his madness because every guy that, or every person he has come in contact with,
mhm,
or his family has come in contact with the person that he is trapping and going through this.
yeah,
Like Jigsaw, because there was a guy that, long story short, there was a guy that sold a bike to a kid, and the kid was actually Jigsaw's nephew, and the kid died. Then there was a woman that had, is a next door neighbor of Jigsaw even before when he was like a fucking, maniac, I guess. And then, but she had a child. She couldn't take care of it, so she kind of smothered the child and put the child on the bed where the husband's at. He rolled over, make it look like he smothered the kid. They arrested him. He committed suicide, and
yeah.
then everybody has to pay for their actions. So, but that, so folks, is a life lesson learned. Don't fuck up shit, or that guy's gonna come after you.
It's eventually gonna catch up with you, man.
Yeah, it's definitely
For
gonna
sure.
catch up to you, like hardcore stuff. So
Hmm.
what? Now tell everybody what your show is about, which we kind of put it in a nutshell or some, of
Hmm.
what it is. But you say it best.
Yeah, I mean, so basically, what we try to do is, yeah, talk about the movie, but not so much. That's not the main focus of the show. I mean, we do talk about some of the most important scenes or some of the most important parts of the plot and characters. Even we like to also study their psychology sometimes of the characters,
Hmm.
kind of try to put ourselves in their position and try to understand why they do what they do. Kind of like what you're doing right now with Jigsaw.
Yeah.
So we do that a lot in our show too, and then we also try to connect whatever happens in the movie to something from quote unquote real life. So it could be something, for example, if we're doing a movie of a, let me see, I guess a virus 28 days later or something like that, which we haven't
Oh
done
yeah.
yet, but we're planning on doing sometime. So what I would do is maybe try to find a virus from real life that's similar to that, even if it's not in humans. There's that virus in deer that I don't know if you heard about it. I don't know if it's a virus or a fungus, but something that makes deer essentially into zombies.
Oh, I heard
And
of something like that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so they stop eating, they stop drinking water, they kind of just aim or wander around aimlessly until they eventually pass out or die from hunger,
Yeah.
because they pretty much forget to eat, they forget to drink water, and they're kind of just shambling all over the forest, and that's actually a real thing.
I know. I've heard something about it, but then they did some kind of thing. Actually, was it? We were just talking about cabin fever,
Hmm.
and they did a second one, which was something about with the meat. So it is kind of
Hmm.
in that similar kind of thing. But yeah, we call it. I've heard something about that. I wasn't really too much into it, so it'll come around again. News always comes around.
Yeah.
When you least expect it, you're like, what the fuck was that? You know, that's why I don't watch news. I'm like, I don't watch the news. I don't give a shit. You know, it's like, listen,
I mean, it's just too depressing, man. To be honest,
yeah,
especially with and I'm not saying like don't be concerned about the world because I mean we kind of have to because we're living in it. But at the
yeah,
same time, it's like there's only so much that I can take. I mean, I have enough of a hard time at work dealing with
yeah,
people. And
yeah.
then
No, I mean, I
I don't
do.
want to. The last thing I want to do is come home and turn on the movie or the news rather, and oh, so many people died in a fire, and so many people whatever. And it's like, oh man, like I don't want to hear that stuff right now, man. Like,
Oh,
but
that's
then
funny. Funny you should say about the fire because like I said, it was me and my girlfriend were looking at houses, and all of a sudden there's this ambulance that's like following us for some reason. I'm like, the fuck, and I wasn't gonna get there. I pull up to the side, and the ambulance is going right past, but it slows up and goes into this complex, which is where me and my girlfriend had to go anyway because that's where the said house that we're gonna look at, and I'm like, oh shit, I don't know if we're gonna go here now because I think there's a fire because I see it on the ring. You know, it's like, oh, there's a fire in a certain area. I'm like, we were just there. I'm like, the fuck.
wow.
Yeah, but
See, but then the funny thing about that is that I won't watch the news, but I'll watch Freddy killing 10 people in a movie.
yeah, but it is a
But
movie. That's what you. That's
it's
all you
different.
think about.
It's different. I think a lot of us in horror that are fans of that style of, or that genre of movies is that we the theory that I've read about because I majored in psychology when I was in college. So one of the main theories about that is that people that are fans of horror movies are using that as an escape mechanism
Yeah,
to kind of let out our frustration and stuff in a way that's um pretty much harmless to ourselves and to others. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I read about when I was in college, man. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
I don't know. We call it. Is it sad that we call when you watch somebody get killed? We call it using a bread maker. I mean, a bread slicer, and then
Mhm.
you're just laughing like, ha, ha, ha. Is that
Exactly.
really bad?
According to that, no, because you're again releasing your frustration and your um, I don't know what to call it. It's not really anger either, but basically it's an escape valve for all that stuff that you can get away with watching somebody go through and not have to live with the consequences because it's not real. So it's kind of like a fantasy type of scenario, I guess. Watching a movie like that,
Yeah,
where and I'm right there with you, man, because I watch movies like that, and sometimes the kills are funny,
yeah,
and you start to wonder, like, is my mind fucked up? Like, am I crazy or am I psychotic or something? But no, it's just some people respond to stuff like that with laughter because it's kind of also like a reflex.
yeah,
Uh, Sometimes your brain can't process information a certain way and it reacts by laughing or by crying.
yeah,
So that's why sometimes people that watch horror movies start crying too
yeah. Uh,
because it just shocks them too much. But some of us laugh and it's because we are kind of trying to react to whatever is happening on the screen.
yeah.
But on a deeper level, you know that it's not true. So
Yeah, I mean, like I look at movies like when I'm looking at it, I look at a horror movie. I mean, it's basically a movie. There's an actor that's doing this, that's doing that, and it's all makeup stuff and everything else. So I know it's not real. But when I saw Fear Street, you know,
oh,
the first one, and that girl got through the bread slicer,
yeah.
I was like, holy shit! I'm like, and I was like grinning a little bit because I've never seen anything like that, and my girlfriend was like flipping out. He was like, "Holy shit!" I'm like, the blankets up, you know, trying to shield herself. Like, oh, how can you be smiling through this? And I'm like, I haven't seen anything like that. That is just awesome that they did something different. I'm like,
Mhm.
wow. She goes, "You're not right." You know, like you know this already. Come on now. You know, I'm like,
Yeah, I
hey.
mean, and see, that's not really what that. I mean, that doesn't really mean there's anything wrong with you or anybody really that that has that reaction. But I've been there, man. I've been with people that I've watched movies with, and something similar happens where something a scene comes up,
Yeah,
and it looks like a cool kill or something that
yeah.
I've never seen before, and I'm like, oh, that's whatever, and they're like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, yeah. It's like, listen, you know, when I go on your show, you know, if I do and when I do, we could, I'm bringing a leather couch and I'm just gonna lie down and you can be the psychiatrist. I'm like, so how was your life? You know, you could be, You know how what happened there? No, no, okay, no problem. You know, and then but there, if you want to see a movie that is like a kill scene that is crazy, actually, there's two. There's two movies. One is I believe it's called the Terrorizer, or the one that has like the clown.
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it. It's the clown with the white suit and sorry, I think it's a black suit and a white face, right?
Yeah, like a white. It's like different color. I mean, it's not different colors, but it's like black and white, kind of
Yeah.
like, and he kills like a certain thing. And there is a scene where he just slices down, like he has like this girl upside down, and he just slices her, like
Wow.
from between and down.
Wow, man.
And then you watch this other movie called Bone Tomahawk. And that's a crazy fucking scene. That's all I'm saying. If you see Bone Tomahawk with Kurt Russell, and I think it's set in like the 1840s, like, like Colonel Mustard kind of thing with the North and South, with the
Yeah.
Indian or whatever Indians. I mean, my history is all like baffled here and there. But there's a scene where it's like a torture. You see, Indians like really scalping the guy,
Wow.
and then they just slice him from like head to like balls.
Wow, man.
And it's like, and Kurt Russell's like, it's okay, you're strong, you can get through this. It's like, you son of a bitch. And I'm like, holy shit. So, but hopefully I get this game, but I'll tell you off this one we call, because when I get this game, then I'll tell you what I was gonna do. But so tell everybody where they can find you and listen and see you, or get your merch and all that shit. So
Yeah, man. We are on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Our handles are a little bit different for each of those. So what I did is I got myself a link tree,
aha,
and what you can do is you can find it on the Spotify profile. So when you click on our Spotify link in the description where it tells you what the show's about, I put the link on there. So it's linktree.com/myths behind LGDS. So you can find all of our profiles, anything from Instagram, Facebook, our TikTok. Even we're messing around with TikTok a little bit. We're also trying to launch a merch store soon, so hopefully that will be out in the next couple of weeks or so. Um,
nice.
it's been in the works for a while, but since, like I said, the situation with my former co-host, that we kind of had to stop working with her. So I put that on hold for a while. But now that I'm working with this new person, we're trying to get that going again. So
Yeah, get a little like more different perspective on somebody else's level.
yeah, I mean, we're trying to get shirts for sure. We're trying to get maybe a couple of glasses, beer mugs. I mean, by the way, hang on, let me show you something.
Yeah.
This is one of the prototypes. I don't know if you can see it there, but
Oh yeah.
there.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that we're working on. When you're designing something with that place, it's Spring Tea or Teespring, one of those two. You can actually order demo merchandise.
Yeah.
So I ordered myself a demo mug.
There you
So
go.
these might be for sale in the next couple of weeks. So hopefully people will buy them. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, we called. Yeah, I got because I all right. Well, I might as well say mine now too, because but you go. I got a link tree as well, because my stuff is like different from each one. So
Yeah.
I got this, put this, and I'll capitalize this shit and whatever. So it's and Linktree. I think Linktree is basically it's linktr dot ee / for mine, Tattoo Squid Podcast. That's TA2SQUID. And then I got the merch site, which is threadless.com. So that's TA2SQUID pod threadless.com. And I got a mug for my girlfriend, and it's like a squid thing. I can't really go now because that means I gotta get up and walk.
Yeah.
But you can also get shower curtains.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they had shower curtains. Skateboard deck. You could put like it'll probably be like a Walmart version. It's not going to be like a Tony Hawk. kind of original thing. You get the mugs, you get the beanies, the shirts, tank tops. What else is there? Tote bags, bath mats. They got like a whole slew of fucking things.
Hmm.
You know, so I'm like, shit. I need to get a. When we get a house, hopefully soon, I'm going to get. I'm going to get the shower curtain. And put that sucker on there, the shower
That's
curtain.
cool, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody offer a podcast shower curtain before, so that's cool.
Yeah, see, you got to try to go. I looked at it, I'm like, shower curtain. I'm like, fuck yeah, okay, we'll go with that. And I'm like, and then, props to, Hops Geek News for giving me that, like, managed to give me that info about, going with that site and all that. So, uh, Chewy, thank you for being on the show and, and helping out and,
Yeah, man, it's been a
um,
pleasure.
it's like I said, folks, I've been telling him before. It's like it's a long time coming. It's like I've been listening to his stuff. I think even before, not even before I started anything. I mean, I started around the same time. I
I
think
think so,
that I
yeah.
heard your stuff. So and it's I've been trying to get everybody that I listen to, to get on the show, and there's like newer ones, and which is great. I get like uh, I have like a podcast that is a love fiction novel podcast, which I
Okay.
know jack shit about.
That's
It'll
that's gonna
be
be cool,
interesting.
man.
Yeah, something to get into, and see what goes. But yeah. So so go check out Myths Behind Legends. I know there's like other stuff in there, but we call it.
That's yeah, that's the shorthand version, man. No worries.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, there's a long, lines of the name, folks. Uh, but get the shirts, get the stickers, get the
You can't, yeah,
magnets.
you can't miss our logo, man. It's like this.
Yeah, yeah. I got it on my friend's, podcast board of stickers
Uh-huh.
folks. If you got stickers, send them my way. I'll put them up there and. Because I see mine in the background, right next to 2010 minutes.
Yeah, it's right here, man. There you
Yep,
are.
yep. See, I'm on there, folks. I'm on there. It's on the wall.
Yeah.
I thought that was the refrigerator, but no, it's the wall.
No, it's like a cabinet. I have some guitars in here as well. Like I have guitars here, and then on this top part, I have all my movies and DVDs and stuff like
Oh, yeah, perfect. See, I'm part of the music and the movie
that.
franchise. So I'm gonna go and talk to Chewy a little bit after this, and everybody have a good night. It's Saturday, and by me, it's fucking windy. But shit, I almost hit the wrong button. Okay, so everybody, have a good night, Chewy. Talk to you in 2 minutes. All
Yeah,
right,
man.
bye.